All right, guys, we're live with the Game with the Homies podcast, episode 1. So we're just gonna get straight into it. So we're gonna start with introductions. So everyone start with your name and what you're drinking. So I'll start. I'm Hamza. Got my LaCroix, of course.
Bullshit.
Oh my god.
The Pina
Boo.
Frosé.
Boo.
And you know what?
Boo.
All right, Imran, what are you drinking, buddy?
I got Hydro Homie, water right here. Name's Imran. I guess Nishal.
I'm drinking water, ironically also, but out of a vase because it's the only glass
Hey,
big
dude,
enough for me.
I can't see your
Oh,
vase,
wow.
dude.
Shut up. My stupid
with
China
the
webcam
cam?
broke. My China webcam broke, okay?
Tragic.
I know webcam.
It's off-brand, and they basically give you a $15 Amazon gift card if you give them a 5-star review. So,
Oh wow.
Did you get your $15 gift card?
no, I didn't review them because it's a scam.
Well, I mean, do you want your $15 gift card?
I mean, yeah, I do, but then I'd be
Yeah,
part of the
we'll leave a
problem.
review. Hey, it's okay, dude. $15. I'll be a part of the problem for $15.
That's fair. I would sell my soul for $15.
We understand Hamza's morals now.
Oh, 100%.
Okay, so on that, we'll go to Dennis.
Dennis.
We should go to Dennis.
Hi guys, my name is Dennis, and I am hydrating tonight because I'm works tomorrow.
hmm
Good boy.
Basically.
All right. Bryce, you want to go next?
Yep. I'm Bryce, and I'm also Hydro Homie today.
Hey. Saving the best for last. Kevin, what are you drinking, buddy?
A mysterious liquid. It's Arizona iced tea.
Hey, wait, let's see it, Kevin. Where is it? Let's see it.
It's over here.
Okay.
Nondescript
Mysterious
cup.
liquid,
His
I
limited
see.
edition.
Oh, dude, should I open it?
Yeah, 100%, dude. Make sure you don't
Yeah.
spill
Oh, how are
it.
we gonna look into it?
Hey, it's okay. Don't spill like Dennis did last time. I felt bad. All right, guys. So we're going to start, dude. First topic for the night: skill-based matchmaking. So this has been a really controversial topic. For those of you guys that don't know, a lot of the FPS content creators have been advocating for no skill-based matchmaking, especially when it comes to the casual queues. And I don't know, dude. So I'm someone that comes from a MOBA background. Before that, I came from like a card game background. And just not being paired with people of similar skill just seems ridiculous to me. Like I don't understand how there's this big pushback to pick on noobs. I don't get that, dude. Dennis, I know you played a decent amount of FPSs in your day. What do you think about it?
I mean, exactly what you said. You just ripped the words right out of my mouth. Listen, I don't play multiplayer games very much, but in the past when I did, last one I played was Overwatch. When I was a kid, I played all sorts of shooters like Soldier Front, Combat Arms, Alliance of Valiant Arms. They all operate under the same structure. There's a ranked system for a reason, and that it helps pair people with similar skill levels and abilities together to have a somewhat fair challenge. I don't know who this guy is, but is he just advocating for some sort of like Spartan-like, randomized pairing of, or matchmaking system where like a super experienced player can just get matched with a scrub on their first day?
I mean, I don't think it's necessarily like that. I think it's more they want like a lack of organization. They just want it to be like whoever's available, you get paired with them. And I think the big proponents of this have been content creators. They don't want to have to try hard to get content. And I think that starts a whole nother conversation. But I first want to go back, get everyone else's opinions. Bryce, do you play any FPSs? Like, what are your thoughts on this?
I don't play as many anymore, but back in the day, like my first competitive game was like COD 4. And so back then there wasn't very much in the way of like skill-based anything. And you'd see from content creators back in the day, like all these videos of them getting like, here's like a video of him getting a nuke in like 5 minutes in Modern Warfare 2, or like sometimes they'll get like more than one in a single game. And the whole thing is just without skill-based matchmaking, they're able to stomp people, they're able to get more of the kill streaks, and it's just easier content in general. And so I think one of the things I want to be wary of when hearing that it's content creators that don't like skill-based matchmaking is that it threatens their ability to make that kind of content.
For sure. Valid points. Nishal, what are you thinking about this, buddy?
So like I said before, I always enjoy playing the devil's advocate for certain shit just because it's fun to actually like hear a different side, even though if it's a shitty point.
Chaotic evil.
Yeah, pretty much chaotic evil always. And so I think that rather, if you want to have a loose structure where someone's first game they're on the same team as somebody's 350th or 800th game, you are then, as your first game, being exposed to tactics and things, even in a casual sense. If it's your first game, you're not going straight into the pro league. And I'm coming from playing Rainbow Six, like a lot of Rainbow Six. So if it's somebody's first game and I'm in casual and some dude, puts his thermite up against a non-barricaded wall, I'm not gonna be freaking out on him and being like, "What are you doing? You're gonna lose. I'm gonna drop in rank and whatever." And Rainbow Six has a thing where they say, "No, you have to be rank 20 to even jump to get ranked." And so it's one of those things where it's like you could learn the proper tactics. Now, if it's 10 people 5v5 and you're being mad, it's everybody's first match. No one's going to know what the hell's going on. Chances are you're going to get shot in the back because one guy's going to be like, "Is there friendly fire?" And so he's going to shoot you in the back. So it's, it's kind of, you can grow up through a trial by fire and experience it in casual queues. Now, if you want to do the pro games, yes, absolutely. There should be an MMR system. There should be a ranking system, all that. But for casual, if you're just trying to go and have fun, and then also even the more experienced people see how just natural intuition from people who have never played before, it's a different perspective to see. You think, "Oh, I need to plan my corners, plan my routes and stuff," and then you see some Gumby rushing in with a shield just straight into the objective, and you're like, "Yeah, you know what? That works. That's fair. I'll try that next time." So it's fun. It brings a fun element back to it, but there should be separate cues based on, if you want to try hard and get sweaty, then yeah, there's a line for that. But if you just want to go in and just turn your brain off and play, then yeah.
See, yeah, actually, I love the fact. I'm sorry, Imran, go ahead.
Yeah, no, it's fine. I was just gonna say, you bring a good point, because difference between mechanical skill and game knowledge, right? I think is where this discrepancy happens, right? So I think you're talking about Siege, right? When someone, I guess, just runs in versus the guy that knows how to play the game.
Right, because the entire other team is thinking, "Okay, no one's gonna run in. Nobody does that." And then you see this dude just exactly the legend Leroy runs in, and you're like, "Wait, what?" And everybody's just laughing because it's like, how ridiculous was that? And it's a great time.
Dude.
More than just sitting there camping in objective and getting sweaty and holding your angles and all that.
I was gonna bring up Overwatch. Yeah. It's kind of similar in that sense, where your mechanical skill kind of is whatever. You could be a God McCree, I guess, but if you get jumped on by a Winston, which is a big monkey boy, you're dead anyway. So if you know how to play the game, you'll be fine. So if you're a Smurf in that elo, if you play Winston versus the best McCree ever, obviously you're gonna win.
Emron, you brought up some point that it came to me. Overwatch there are many team-based shooters out there, Overwatch being one of them, in that you can't really win the game by yourself. A lot of the shooters I used to play back in the day, there was a theoretical possibility that you could, in fact, carry your entire team. I'll bring up a pretty old shooter, Uncharted 2 on PS3. It was a multiplayer 5v5, basic team deathmatch. You don't need to know more than that. In that kind of scenario, theoretically, if it's not objective based, there is a possibility you could be carrying all your other 4 teammates. So maybe there is something to be said about objective based games versus just pure racking up kills.
Definitely.
Death matches and things like that for this these different ways of matchmaking.
So would you say that these more team-based games would benefit more from the casual from the lack of skill-based matchmaking, Dennis?
I think so. I think after Nishil brought up his devil's advocate point, I can see that, because at the beginning of when I was starting to play Overwatch, I was just still learning the mechanics, and actually, in a way, if all of us were just flailing and brand new, it would be kind of difficult to learn things. But if you're exposed to maybe having 1 to 2 semi-experienced players, and the rest of the 3 of you are just scrubs, it enables there's a possibility for more socialization, communication, and maybe even knowledge transfer. But as opposed to just modern warfare, where the goal is just to rack up as many kills, I think I'm still an advocate for making sure that the skill, based on simple things like just KD and statistics, to make sure that you're facing off against people who are, the same level as you.
Wait, Hamza,
so I see where you and Nishil are coming.
What game was the guy that you mentioned talking about?
I mean, it's not just one guy. It's a huge thing for it's mainly like Call of Duty, to be fair.
Okay.
But one place I want to take this real quick because I want to play devil's advocate to the devil's advocate. You know,
Right.
Dennis and Nishal mentioned like skill-based matchmaking. It's okay to be a little looser for these more like team-based games, or at least that's what Dennis was hinting at. But
Right.
my counterpoint to that is League of Legends and the new player experience. Kevin, I know you're familiar. You made a new account before. And you've seen the frustrations that a lot of new players have having to like play with Smurfs and then these people that are better than them and people that just constantly like berate them for being unskilled players, you know?
So like I coach new players, and it's like probably the worst new player experience ever. And what I sort of have qualm about Nishal's sort of devil's advocate point is that when these people make or talk about their a need for a lack of skill-based matchmaking, it's like, what is their motivation for wanting that? It's for the content. It's like, I want the 25 win kill streak because on YouTube that makes a better clickbait and
True.
so on. So, but then if you think about like Rainbow Six Siege as well, if I go like if I'm playing Rainbow Six for the first time ever, I'm not going to be like, what am I supposed to do in this thing? But using my sort of, I guess, like prior experience with FPSs, it would be like, oh, kill the other team. So I have to get familiar with the operators and what they do, or like the bomb sites and what they do, or like the basic objective. I don't really care about line of sight. I don't really care about like the strategic portion of it. And as a new player, if I was playing it for the first time, then that's not on my mind at the time. And I don't need someone to tell me, oh, this is what you should be doing, because there's other things that I'm more worried about as a new player. And when I say, when you talk about skill-based matchmaking, the purpose of skill-based matchmaking is so that as many people in the game needs to have fun. So like if you have a totally new player paired up with like a pro player, the new player is not going to have any fun. And then like maybe the pro player is having fun with like their off meta picks or whatever they want to shenanigan about. But generally, if they're like, I want to actually play the game, it's probably not going to be that fun either.
So, do you want to say something? Oh no, that was did I call it a sneeze?
No, it's a cough, dude. It's a cough, dude.
Okay. So according to that, another I guess a good politician point in that I'm gonna half deflect your question is that if I'm going into these multiplayer games, League, Eve Online, if you want a huge example,
That's a crazy example.
Siege,
That's a
exactly.
really
No, but here's the thing.
out-of-whack example.
Here's the thing. If I go on Steam or Xbox Marketplace, I don't even know what consoles used to buy games anymore. When you're going to buy these things, you're not just looking at the $60 game and just thinking, you know what, I like that title art, I'm gonna buy this. You're gonna watch some videos of it. You're gonna see some stuff of it. So coming into it as a new, coming into it as
that's
a
a very
new
strong
player.
assumption to make, Nisha.
That is true. And also,
We
I'm
are-
also not counting in gifts either, right? A parent buys it for their kid or something, right? But if you really are so motivated to be better at the game from a casual, not a content creator perspective, from a casual perspective, like how I was, I didn't record any clips, I didn't, post anything online about my progress in the games. It was that I would look it up and I would hate that I would die so many times on one map that it motivated me to go and look it up and be like, okay, this is where I need to enter into the room from. This is where I need to do it, because I had to struggle and lose, because I had to get stomped on as a new character or playing a different character and I played it completely wrong or I chose the wrong attachments or something. Now I understand why that is frustrating for a new player and might completely turn you away from the game. But that just simply means that you would only like the game under your own specific circumstances and not as the game currently is. So it could be updated and changed, but it's also on you. It's the burden of the buyer.
So I love the point Dennis made about that being a very dangerous assumption. You know, that's very specific use case, I think. You know, and I very much agree with it. You know, I think that's like a good chunk of the players. And I was just wondering, I know Bryce works in user research, so I know he like has to deal with like a myriad of different players. Bryce, is that the most common kind of player in your experience, or would you even know? Or
so in my case, I can't really draw too much from my work experience just because we tend to focus more on like single player experiences and especially not competitive multiplayer. But just from my own personal experience playing those, what I tend to see most often is when someone gets a game for the first time, they haven't really made the decision yet on if they want to kind of commit to kind of mastering this game. And so typically when I see like a new player, they're still going to just try to experience the game, see what it's about. And when they end up being paired with really experienced players, in my experience, it more often results in these kind of toxic interactions where the good player either is just going to stomp them because they're really good, or they're going to know ways to play like kind of disrespectfully or cheesy that the new player just has no idea like how to do anything about. So in Rainbow Six Siege, you'll see it all the time in casual mode where an experienced player will just be right outside a window, and as soon as the attackers spawn, they just shoot out the window
spawn
and get,
camping.
like, one or two free kills every time.
That's fair. That is fair.
It's a really frustrating experience when you don't know those spots ahead of time.
Mm-hmm.
You also see people just run right out the map and just kill people, and like by the time their name shows up, they've already gotten like kills and like the damage has already kind of been done.
Right.
And more often than not, that just tends to frustrate people and make them not want to play, as opposed to kind of figuring out
True.
what they did
It
wrong.
is a mentality. Yeah.
Mhm.
It is a mentality how you want to approach the game. To me, I'd be like, all right, good to know. When I'm in a game with different people, I'm gonna run out that same doorway. I'm gonna use those same cheap ass tricks because I'm cheap. So I'm gonna do that.
But that's just you though. Like
exactly. That's just me. That's my perspective.
The division of competitive and casual can just end at the necessity of comps. Like if I'm playing a League normal or if I'm playing Overwatch normal, I honestly don't really care if there's freaking 60 PS on the team and everyone wants to play McCree, Tracer, and whatnot on the casual game modes.
I mean, I still care, dude.
No, I mean, like, it might be frustrating, but if it's frustrating to me, then it's up to me to sort of fill up that hole. So if I'm like, I'm really annoyed that we don't have any healers, then I can swap to a healer if winning is that important to me, instead of me playing a DPS character. If it's Rainbow Six Siege, I don't really care if we don't have a Thermite or a Hibana or like a hard breach character, because to me, it's more about, I want to play the operator that I want to play more than I have to win this whatever game that I'm playing. I think at that it can end the division between competitive and casual. Keep
I like
skill-based
that.
matchmaking.
I like that for sure.
Yeah, I feel like this whole conversation sparked by these, Modern Warfare like YouTubers or streamers is kind of
or Halo 3 back in the day on the 360, where you see like people with the gravity hammer running around, or they get the insane grenade kills, or the throwing knife kills from across the map because they saw somebody else in a video do it. So it's like
that's the montage play.
It's like all the content creators want a lack of skill-based matchmaking because it's easier content.
I think
that's all fine and dandy, but they need to work for their job,
and they're not the majority at all, right?
Yeah, it's like
vocal minority.
I think this is a great segue into the next like part of this topic, where it's like needs of the content creator versus needs of the average player. You know, people cite over and over again where it's like content creators, they're advertisement for your games, you know? So you want to serve them, you want to make sure they're happy. And this has been a big pain point for some bigger companies. I know Riot has had issues with their influencers not being happy. So, I mean, Dennis, let's go to you, buddy. What do you think, who should have priority here?
From a pure business perspective, I understand that these streamers, content creators, and YouTubers, they are free or not free. They are advertising, and marketing the game is important. But again, the purpose of marketing is to always serve the base consumer. It's not the other way around. In order to make them happy, certainly if their demands are just to eliminate a certain type of skill-based matchmaking in order to just facilitate easier content making, I can't see that being, a thing. It seems like a complete non-issue in that we've seemed to resolve after. Let's think about this. How long has multiplayer gaming been around? Like, I'd say about 2 decades.
Are you talking about couch co-op or are you talking
Pong
online?
boy.
Like over the internet, like full on. It's been around since like the early 2000s, right, or even before.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'd say early 2000s.
I'd say about 2 decades.
It got super popular early 2000s, what I'd say.
Yeah, like starting off with the Xbox or even Halo 1 on the PC, I believe. But we've been playing games for about 2 decades. Matchmaking, I think, has already been figured out. You mentioned casual mode in Rainbow Six Siege. We have casual mode in Overwatch. There's no need to prevent or restrict any sort of matchmaking here. Everybody it can have fun, and from a business perspective, it is in the best interests of the studio to make sure that everybody can have their kind of experience that they're looking for. So to Hamza, no, I don't think we should be. The influencers should not take priority over the base consumer.
Okay.
So you're saying there's like a thing for everyone?
Yeah. So if I add on to that, so the purpose of the game is for that everyone that is participating in the game should be able to have fun. So another question that I think we can ask is, can you remove skill-based matchmaking and still have everyone in the game have fun? And I think an example of that game would be like Mario Kart, Mario Party. Like these kind of games, you're playing with your friends. Like if I told you, if you play with someone, 100 out of 100 times you're going to lose. You're going to be like, I don't really want to play that game. But if you say like 100 out of 60 times, you're going to lose. But 40% of the time, you might win. You're like, oh, maybe I'll try it out like once or twice. So if I say Mario Kart, Mario Party, like these kinds of games, what do they have in common? They don't have skill-based matchmaking. You're just playing with your friends or online. They don't really need skill-based matchmaking. And why is that? Is because they have heavy components of RNG and like a comeback mechanism for people who are falling behind.
Would you say it's competitive? Like, I wouldn't say Mario Party or Mario Kart is competitive at all, right?
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. So like skill-based matchmaking and sort of having everyone have fun is sort of working together. And if you want to remove skill-based matchmaking, you're going to sacrifice a lot of who's having fun in the game.
I see what you're saying. That makes sense.
True. That is true, but it's also such a weird thing in that every game does its own matchmaking different, right? It's, if you think about, because of the nature of each game, CSGO versus Siege versus No Man's Sky, even though that's not really matchmaking, it's more PvE. Dude, No Man's Sky, it's fun, man. I've been back on it. It's still
you just
fun.
had to bring up No Man's Sky.
I just had to bring up No Man's Sky, dude. Labor of Love, Steam, vote for it. Dude, it's such a good game. I have like 100 hours in that game, and I'm gonna put so much more. But then also, if you think about the quote-unquote matchmaking of EVE Online, I didn't even think of that as a good example
EVE Online, Misha?
I tried, and then it was, Excel Simulator 2020, because that game
seems more like a job than a video game.
It is, dude. It is crazy. And so it's like, and so you have Overwatch. Then what's the new CS:GO? Valorant, I think.
Valorant, yeah, right.
Yeah.
That's right. Take on CS:GO.
Yeah. So, you have all these different matchmaking types now. In Modern Warfare 2, if you put the best guy with a bunch of scrubs, he's going to get a nuke, and it would effectively end the game.
Yep.
In Siege, if you have one experienced guy on one team and the other team is like half okay, the experienced guy can still get the ace like every round. So he could still win it in that it's half team deathmatch, half objective. But if it's easier to play it like a team deathmatch, then that's what you do. If you know your skill level is better and that you know the map better and how to, shoot their feet out, because you know that the floor beneath them is breakable and they don't realize that. It's about map knowledge then too. So each game has to incorporate its matchmaking differently. I hated League and I still do, and I will always hate League because it hates me too. You know, last time I played was in high school. Yeah, Heimerdinger back in high school. And so I never saw the appeal to go back to Hearthstone. I like the challenge mode because it's all the other stuff. So, I mean, I know we haven't talked more about the card games and how I absolutely destroy Hamza and Hearthstone every time.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I thought. But, you know, certain games can have different matchmaking styles based on how the game plays, right?
Yeah, I really like that point. I know Kevin mentioned Mario Kart, Mario Party, and I guess we were missing some of the nuance earlier where it again, it depends on what kind of game you're looking to play. You know, like certain games, it might be a little better to have like more strict matchmaking, and some it's like screw it, you know, just have fun with your friends, you know?
Right.
So, I mean, the discussion point here was specifically for FPS games. And I get it's a very nuanced topic, but what do you guys think specifically about like Call of Duty? You know, I feel like everyone here has played COD one point in their life. You know,
a lot,
like, yeah, a lot of COD, right? So how would you feel like if you got into a game, and then in a casual game, you're just gonna have fun, you know, maybe with your friends, and then you're just getting shit on by like someone like 20 times better than you. You know, like I don't know, I can't say that's a fun experience for most players.
I think a lot of the problem stems from community perception, as well as like having sort of like a mild new player experience. So I can't really talk about the newer CODs because I don't really play them. But if I talk about like Modern Warfare 2, which is what I played, you had the akimbo models, sniping, you had noob tubes, you have Commando Pro, Sitrep Pro, everything like that was like immensely broken. But I guess like I'm like going off the rails here, but like in terms of COD, I think that like a moderately new player queue, so like a reverse Smurf queue from League. So you have like the completely new players in a certain queue so that new players can be new players. And then once you sort of demonstrate that sort of skill at a decent amount, you can like graduate to the next level. And I think that's a better solution than like removing skill.
So you're proposing like maybe a laxing of skill-based matchmaking, but with the caveat of give new players their own space to
yeah, is it competitive in COD now?
I think so.
I think so.
Right?
So I don't know if you guys are looking at chat, but Tran is also talking about like Titanfall 2 and how he'll just play a game, and if you're relatively new in it, in casual, it's a struggle for a lot of games because everybody's trying to push out a multiplayer model that a lot of games, their shelf life is decreasing in that, like how long it'll sustain a multiplayer base. So eventually all you're left with is the experts and the people who love the game and the cult following who play it religiously, and then the small trickle of new players who then just get stomped on by the old players, and there's not even enough to make a new lobby of just new players or for them to scale to learn, and then they're just like, why am I playing this? And then they stop, and then you know that concentrates your expert base even more. So that's a fair point Tran brought up in the chat that I was looking at, and I was thinking about that too, because I was playing Insurgency, and it was before the second one came out, and that was just all really good people, and I was just like, oh my god, I'm so out of my depth here. But the matchmaking was hard to get into a match because there was nobody left.
No, I see the problem, but like just to bring it back to Kevin's thing, you know, about the the new player queue. I know Bryce, you play a lot of games, right? I feel like you try a bunch of different games.
Yeah, I'll
do you
try
feel like that would help your experience a lot, just being paired with just new players?
Personally, I've seen games that do that, and I haven't really noticed too much of a difference. And I think when it comes to those systems, there's still the issue of like, how do you determine the difference between someone that is new versus a Smurf that made their account? I think that's something that's pretty hard to do. And even like, weird enough, I'd say League is probably one of the best at kind of detecting Smurfs. They still have issues left and right where it just creates bad experiences still.
Yeah, for sure. I know, Dennis, you kind of stick to like the same, or at least that's what my perception of you. You kind of stick to the same like couple of games, and you don't really play multiplayer that much anymore. Well, what do you think of this idea of like a new player queue?
A new player queue is, as to my knowledge, that's how I assumed things worked, and I guess I was incorrect in that regard. I figured when I started Overwatch, and that was about maybe 2 years ago, I basically assumed that the people that I was getting paired with in games was about the same level as me, or maybe just brand new to the whole thing. Um, you know, it's difficult for me to discuss this because, to be honest, I haven't really touched multiplayer in a while, so my input might be a little lacking here.
No worries. Does anyone have any last topics or last thoughts on the skill based matchmaking thing? Because I do kind of want to move it forward to the next topic. But
No,
yeah,
I think we're good.
Keeping it on the, I was gonna say keeping it on the COD topic. When they don't have skill-based matchmaking, what you'll end up seeing, and I think this was most noticeable in Modern Warfare 2, is they'll have to add those kind of, like Kevin was saying, either RNG or like comeback mechanics. So as much as like streamers are complaining about skill-based matchmaking now, back then they were still complaining because they'd stomp and then they'd go to shoot someone and suddenly they have twice their health because they have like the painkiller death streak and they lose.
Yeah.
And like it's just still results in frustration either way, really.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I guess like if you're gonna have like the ability to have these stompy games, I guess you're gonna need these comeback mechanics, and that's gonna make there's gonna be frustration regardless.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
So,
Imran,
I was gonna say, there's a very distinct thing I think they're talking about. From what I've heard, these people that are complaining are talking about the battle royale mode. They're talking about Warzone.
Oh, okay.
Not team deathmatch. So I don't know if that would skew your guys' perception of it or in any way, but that's what I've heard. I'm not sure if it was just team deathmatch, but because in a battle royale, it's a little bit different, right? Because it brings into that like game sense again, right? Instead of just mechanics, just a little bit. But
I know we're about to move on from this topic, but Emron, discussing the needs of the content creators. And somebody who's experienced or even working on the companies or studios would probably be able to see, but like, do these content creators in their videos that they put out on a regular basis, and from what I see in my YouTube video, they're putting out these videos constantly, does it have some kind of direct impact on the higher player user base? More people logging in, more people purchasing. Like, I'm just curious about that. Maybe that's for another session or later, but it's just like, these content creators certainly enjoy making a living playing video games, but in terms of the business perspective, how useful are these after, say, the initial launch to like maybe 6 months down the road of a game, to 12 months down the road of a game?
It's advertisement, right? Like, again, I wouldn't say like it's probably crazy impactful, but it definitely is impactful. But I don't think you want to cater to those content creators, right? Because then you lose your core player base.
I guess like if you talk about Warzone, the problem with what skill-based matchmaking causes is the queue times. So even in League, you have the challenger people. Like, you don't have enough challengers to make up 5v5, so people just play Smurfs, and that sort of worsens the cycle, because if you have challengers playing on Smurfs that are on like Diamond to Masters, then there's not enough challengers players online at the same time. So I think in that sense, like, I think laxing the skill-based matchmaking might solve the problem a bit better. I mean, but I still think that there should be some sort of.
If you look at League, right, you see all these pros complaining they get like mastered players in their games when they're challenger. I feel like they get the same complaints,
like 40-minute queue on the role that you want with high quality games. Quote, really big quotes.
It's
and then they're gonna complain about queue times, and then you lax out on the skill-based matchmaking. Then it's like, wow, I'm having all these low elo players on my team, like blah blah blah. It's like, I think in League that's a bit more apparent, but in like Battle Royale it might be a bit more less noticeable.
Battle Royales also need a lot more players, right?
Yeah, that's part of the thing. So like I feel like if you lax it a bit, it might solve it. But I think complete like Maria and I play Eternal Return. It's like if we play against a bunch of bots, it's not that fun if you win.
No, definitely not.
Like
it's like playing against bots in League, you know. You just
like I feel like I wanted to. I tried to win. Like that's the thing.
You get a sense of accomplishment if you actually win. Yeah.
Hamza, did you want to switch real quick?
Yeah. So actually, I'm gonna wrap this up real quick. So just for the sake of finality, you know what? Let's do a tally. You know, let's see.
A vote.
Vote exactly. Who would prefer to lack skill-based matchmaking and casual queues, and who'd choose to keep it the same?
What is this for? Like
for
Royale
FPS
or?
Honestly,
I mean, you say FPS, but like.
I say non-ranked game modes. I'm not too familiar with battle royales. Are battle royales typically ranked?
I mean, I think you have like a general rank that accumulates with experience of how well you do based on matches.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so screw it. Let's include battle royales in there. You know, battle royales and casual queues for FPS games. So who would keep the matchmaking the same? Because I would keep it the same. You know.
I mean,
anyone else agree
if
with
you're
me?
asking, do we want to cater to the content creators? That's a hard no for me.
That's a hard no.
I can't answer the other question because I don't know enough detail about it, you know?
Sure. I mean, just like after this discussion and with what you do know, you know, we're not like the judge, jury, and execute, you know.
Yeah, I don't think it's clear cut, you know? Like, it's weird.
Okay.
To me, it depends on the game, depends on the game mode, depends on the player base, depends on the experience. But also, one thing is that if you open up the matchmaking, right, to be less structured, people wouldn't have a reason to create Smurfs.
Okay. All right.
Because you're being paired with everybody anyway, whether you're new or it's a Smurf or whatever.
I mean, you wouldn't have a Smurf because every game is like having a Smurf, you know?
Right, exactly. So it depends on the game itself. But
I understand.
Yeah.
So does anyone here feel strongly one way or the other, where they're like definitively, no, I would get rid of it in casual queues, or I would keep it?
No, I would keep casual queues. Why would you get rid of it?
Keep casual for sure.
Oh, keep the queues. I mean, keep the matchmaking. You know, keep the skill-based matchmaking. Is anyone like a big proponent of it, or? Okay, all right. So it sounds like
open to it being changed.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fair.
I mean, having it like relaxed a bit in favor of queue times would be fine, but it should still be there.
Right.
Sure.
Absolutely.
I like that. That's a good point about the queue times. Dennis, what do you think? You'd still keep it, or?
Whatever they're doing right now, I think is probably the best system.
Status quo.
Changing something is always, you know, there's always, I mean, I could see, you know, maybe try it out, see how it happens for a month, but, you know, analyze the results and, you know, the reception by the player base. But, you know, as far as I'm concerned, maximum engagement, maximum audience, maximum player base on at all times is the best way from a business perspective. And ultimately, game studios are unfortunately there to make money, but as long as game studios make money, at least they can continue to either develop their games or create new products. So that's my perspective.
Yeah, for sure. All right, guys. So I think that's enough for skill-based matchmaking for today. We might touch on another day. So we are gonna jump into our next topic. I do think Nishal needs to leave at the moment, though.
I can stick around for like 5 more minutes and then I'll bail real quick.
Yeah. So we're looking to do this one a little fast, maybe even like save part of it for next time. But let's start. So the topic is transparency from game devs and access to game devs via Twitter, Reddit. You know, just online access to these guys. You know. So I started my first real gaming experience, competitive gaming, and it's not even video games. It was competitive Yu-Gi-Oh. You know, and anyone that knows Konami, like they don't speak to anyone at all, right? I'm a huge nerd, you know. And like it was just such like a culture shock, you know. I was so amazed when I switched over to Riot, you know, and then devs are constantly talking to the player base, you know, and I was like, wow, they're communicating what they're doing, why they're doing it. And it really helped build customer loyalty for me. You know, I was like, wow, you know, I want to keep playing this game. You know, I see what they're doing. I see why they're doing it. Of course, they're not perfect. And then I have big issues with some stuff that they say. But, you know, like something is better than nothing. So I'm a big fan of it. Kevin, what do you think? I know you've played a myriad of games.
So I think the biggest... So, like, I play a game that has pretty good communication, which is, I guess, League, I guess. And then another game that has like very horrible communication, which is MapleStory. So I think the big part of transparency comes from like an availability of the process of making the game. So like I really think that transparency comes in the form of beta builds, well, and communication, justification. Those are the big sort of pillars to having a good gaming community or game community around your game. So if I think like those are more multiplayer games, but if I think of like single player games, like I don't know if anyone here played Darkest Dungeon, but
Oh yeah, I've played
yeah,
quite a bit of Darkest Dungeon.
yeah, in early access, they didn't have the corpse mechanic in the beginning, and then
Wow,
yeah,
that
and then
changes a lot.
yeah, and then because the lack of the corpse mechanic uh, made like a very big meta comp. They're like, oh, if we add the corpse mechanic, it would be a more interactive game. It would kind of nerf the dominating strategy to the game. So they
Yeah, you only
implemented.
need frontliners at that point
Yeah,
because
it
the
was.
frontliners could just
Yeah,
keep on clearing it. Yeah.
yeah, it was just it was all in early access, so devs
Right.
can like do whatever they want. But they implemented it, and then developers actually got death threats that they ruined the game. So like I think the transparency. So like the solution that they came up with was you're allowed to have it as an optional option, but it's like, oh, this if you untick this mark, then you're not playing the game it was intended to play. So I think that's like a big sort of thing that you should explain your processes, have data builds, and it gives people more of like a benefit of the doubt to you as a developer.
So
And I think transparency in that form is an important thing.
that's very true. And I'll approach this as from like a business standpoint though, in that it's hard to find reasoning to dedicate so many resources towards updating people constantly and having so much just based on telling people when, hey, they'll figure it out, they'll complain about it, and then we'll figure it out, instead of kind of prefacing it. While as us, the consumers, would very much enjoy that, it actually brings no monetary benefit towards a business to do something like that. So something funny that this makes me think of when you're talking about transparency with game devs and all that, if you ever have a problem with like Delta or Southwest for a flight, and you go to their website and you say, hey, I have this issue, their chat auto responds and it says, DM us on Twitter and we'll figure it out there. And
Yeah,
so you don't
yeah.
even go to their website anymore. You just go to their Twitter and then they do that. Now, if I needed help with a game, if I experienced a bug, if I had an idea and I had the available, or if a company had the structure in place for me to DM them on Twitter saying, hey, I think this is going to be a good idea. Here's my information. Or, hey, I'm having this bug. Is this a known problem or something? And then within a minute, somebody's replying to you instantly and you just have it. Absolutely. That's great. But dedicating the amount of resources to transparency, while great for a consumer, and it's something we all want to see, right? I want to see why the fuck Star Citizen is taking 14 years and like $2 million to come out, and we get like a 15-second teaser, but
Yeah.
I would love some information.
I mean, there's like
Yeah,
a beta,
so
not even a beta build.
that is
There's a full build.
Yeah, that is the
Right.
thing that I'm talking about. So when the developers for Darkest Dungeon had that incident, they hired. That's what led to the hiring of a community manager.
Right. So for them, it worked out so well. And for a lot of companies, it would. But also, you're seeing, the old school structure. A lot of people who still struggle with social media and think everything they see on Facebook is real. But so they don't understand the importance of a community manager, whereas Darkest Dungeon found that out through trial by fire. It's great.
Yeah, but then it's more like I guess like, well, sorry.
No, you're good.
Game better.
I mean,
than
so
Finger.
we don't have much
Remix.
time left for today, so I just want to get like everyone's thoughts on it real quick. So,
Right.
Dennis, I know you play mainly single player games, and I feel like those aren't riddled with a lot of community managers and a lot of communication. What are your experiences with game devs and the companies just being transparent?
No, at least for single player, like you said, not so much of an issue. the only real, like, I think we can all think this is a little timely. Cyberpunk 2077 is the best example I can think of where it's definitely probably good to have a little bit of engagement. I always like to look at it from, as a consumer, I, of course, would love the most information possible because at least it can tide me over. But, from what I hear for multiplayer, there's a lot of social media management on many platforms. I'm thinking Reddit, Facebook, Twitter. Am I on the ball right there?
I think mainly Reddit, Twitter nowadays, but yeah, for sure.
Okay. Well, I think definitely have a consistent message. And if you have a dissatisfied player base, maybe upset with the latest update or bugs or things like that, I think it's more of a risk, to be honest to you, from the studio perspective, to having somebody cater to people's responses on a Reddit thread, just responding to them. Certainly, it makes the consumer feel heard, but again, the people who are the ones who take the time and effort to go voice their dissatisfaction or displeasure, or just even singing their praises, the more people you have doing that, I believe there's been some instances. For example, I think with Bethesda, actually. Bethesda, I love their company for the Fallout games, but for Fallout 76, there was some issues there where, when you have too many voices, it just opens yourself up to more risk. For me, minimize the risk. Make sure that you put out a consistent message and don't cater too much to the consumer in this case. I think gamers were very used to being catered to in a lot of senses. And now when we see things that are, like business practices like DLCs and skins and loot boxes, we start feeling this flash of anger because that didn't exist back in the day. Back in 2005, what the heck is a loot box? What the heck is a DLC? That's called an expansion pack. And so now we're seeing the unfortunate creep in of business practices into the industry. But,
No, I love the fact that you brought up the less is more. Yeah, I love the fact that you brought up the anger point because that's actually where I want to go next week. But real quick before we finally wrap it up, Bryce, I want to hear your thoughts on it. I know you play a bunch of games. You work on the game side. So maybe some people that work in community outreach.
Not really so much for multiplayer games, but my experience with multiplayer games, and particularly with League, has been that I'm not really a fan of the way that nowadays it seems like, while they're great at communicating things, it seems very fragmented and split across so many different channels that it's almost like a chore to find different things. Like you never know when like the information you want is going to be a Reddit post or like a random reply in someone else's Reddit post or in a Twitter thread or like a reply to someone's Twitter thread. And I don't really personally enjoy having to like look up like individual names that work on the game and go through their specific Twitter just to find the information I want. I feel like it's very split. It's very kind of hard to find what I'm looking for. And while I do appreciate the amount of information, I do wish that it was kind of more, there's like a central place I could just go.
For sure. And that's one of the topics I want to go to next time. Sorry, Imran, I know we didn't really get to you for this topic, so we'll run back to you guys next time. So just want to close it up real quick because I know people have other stuff they need to do. So guys, this has been episode 1 of Gaming with the Homies. I had a great time, and we'll see you guys next week.
All right, peace out.
Peace.
See you, everyone.